That's late. Anyway, I better be going, otherwise I'm going to be late.
Yeah, you better.
All right.
What time will you be home?
About 6. See you tonight.
Bye. Been living in J Court now for 3 years. I don't like it. It's very secluded. You know, once you're in, you're in. The kids are not happy. I'm not happy. But we had to come here. We didn't have no alternative. The house we were living in was actually falling down, and the council man came round, and I did ask for a house, but he said I didn't qualify, being I have only 2 children. So this was it. I had to take this flat. I didn't have a choice. These flats, well, there's nothing here. In the new flats, they've got playrooms for the children. Well, in these flats, there's nothing at all for the children to play. They've either got to stay in and get complaints from neighbours, and myself always having goes at them about making a noise, or they can go downstairs and then I'm a bag of nerves because they're downstairs playing. The main thing that does worry me about flats is the fact you can't have animals, and my children have been brought up with animals. We had a poodle, we've had rabbits, and we've had cats. Now all they've got now is a bird and fish. Well, they'd love a dog, but they just can't have one in flats. But it's very secluded, this place. As I say, you can't meet anybody. You can't go out on the doorstep and have a chat because there's just no one to chat to. I've been a bag of nerves since we've lived here. You know, I've completely changed. I used to be a happy-go-lucky person. Well, now I'm not. I'm quite miserable, you know, and it has changed me and the children an awful lot.
We've been living in this flat for 14 years, you know, just over 14 years. Because, you know, obviously the area around has changed quite a lot. And I've changed quite a bit inside the flat. There are some things in the flat that I can't change, but I'd like to change. But the council won't allow us to do this.
Every flat they built is the same. And I don't like sameness. I don't like to be exactly the same as my neighbour. So I think to have a home that's different, to fetch your children up in, you've got to make changes.
I like to be a little bit different from the chap next door, you know. You can't alter the place structurally, but at least you can alter some of the things inside. And that is why, you know, I made the fireplace there, the wooden fireplace, to replace the original one. Which, if you saw the old fireplace behind it, it's rather the same in every flat, and it's rather like a gents' toilet. And I didn't like this a bit, you know, but I made this myself as an alteration. But it isn't fixed, it is only a temporary, you know, standing there, and it's stand up on its own steam. I couldn't fix it because if I did fix it, the council would be after my blood. You know, you're not allowed to make any alterations, even if they were improvements, according to the council. And the other thing was the ceiling, of course. On the ceiling, the original ceiling, there was a plaster up there which rejected everything that you put onto it, doesn't matter what it was. So eventually what I had to do, I had to stick the plastic type tiles, you know, as you see on the ceiling now, I stick those up there to completely cover it up, you know, because nothing will take on the ceiling itself.
Plus the fact it's a bit more decorative, isn't it?
It's a bit of a battle, this. We're trying to change the flat, but the flat's changed us a bit as well, I believe, you know. I think this is, you know, you can't avoid this. I say, if you don't become a flat dweller living in the flats, I think you finish up at a mental institution very quickly.
We adapt ourselves to a way of living in flats after being here 14 years. You have to live as a flat person. Either if you live in a street, you're just, you know, you've got neighbours, you can go and knock on doors, but in flats you're just so lonely that you just get used to it in the end. You just can't take people from a house and put them in a flat and say, get on with it. You just can't do it, it's not done. And you've got to have some sort of freedom. If these people have had freedom and they're closed into a flat, they're going to be a bundle of nerves like I am.
Well, I should imagine, judging by myself, once your husband goes to work, all you've really got left to do is the housework. I think the husbands, as well as having their jobs to go to each day, they usually got quite a lot of friends. They always got someone to talk to and chat to. 9 times out of 10 they come home, have their dinner and fall asleep. It's because they've had plenty to talk about all day and they're tired. I never feel really lonely because, as I say, there's always someone walking along or pops their head round, come in, have a chat. and that, but I think it would be a hell of a lot harder if you wanted to spend a day on your own. So I'd always thought of flats as being lonely type places, you know. You'd heard of people going in and closing the door and that's all they'd see until their husband come home at night. On the actual day of moving in, everyone seemed to be unloading and packing up together, you know, and we all got chatting and, you know, do you want a cup of tea and all this, but lucky enough we all stayed friends after, and so it didn't turn out to be as lonely as I thought.
I mean, you move out of these flats to get into these flats, so you'll be settled and you won't have a nervous breakdown, you know.
Yeah.
But when you come into this, it's just as bad because you can't let the kids play, can you?
Look what the caretaker said when he came up about the children playing on the ground, on the landing. No children on the landing, either in the playroom or in the houses.
Yeah, that's what you said.
So what have you got to do?
Yeah.
You go to the playroom, they're locked in, or there's somebody down there saying, children from the ninth floor, you're not allowed to use it.